Welcome to the show. This is Front and Center here on NTV. Many thanks for staying with us. This is where we seek to dissect and make sense of the biggest political and policy issues happening in the country. Tonight, we want to talk about the China Square fiasco, the shopping complex China Square that was closed, some goods confiscated, and the latest tonight is that the anti-counterfeit authority has returned the goods worth 50 billion shillings that had been taken away from that complex after the complainants withdrew that case. Shall be getting into that. I am joined in studio tonight by lawyer Nordin Khagai. Thank you for joining us for your first time on the show. Karibu sana. We also have with us Professor Fred Ogola, political strategist. Thank you, sir, for joining us, Prof.
Thank you very much,
also we have with us political risk analyst Dismas Mokua. Many thanks, gentlemen. Before I come to you, let's take a look at what has been happening all this week. There were some protests by traders from downtown Nairobi who have been protesting against Chinese import businesses. Take a look.
The China Square Limited, a popular store at the Unicity Mall inside the Kenyatta University, has been at the center of a raging war between a section of local traders and the government over what the small-scale traders term as unfair competition, especially in pricing. Questions have emerged over the ownership of China Square. NTV is in possession of documents that indicate Lei Cheng, who was previously believed to be the sole owner of the shopping store, owns only 1%, according to company registration documents that further state that the remaining 99% of the store is owned by Fujian Festa Holdings Limited. The company has two directors, Lian Feng, who owns 60%, and Sheng Shihua, who owns 40%. NTV has also learned that Fujian is a Kenyan registered company, and the company, rather than the individual, is regarded as the director of China Square. It is still vague on which Kenyans are smack in the middle of Fujian Festa Holdings. The two registered the company in Kenya on July 25th, 2022. The controversy of the China Square has drawn different quarters into the discussion, with the latest one being small-scale traders in Nairobi's Nyamakema area who protested the takeover of their businesses by the Chinese.
Siku tunalisha watu milioni 3 hapa Nairobi. Nairobi ni mji mkuu wa biashara, na kama tutakubalisha mchina aingie, tutakuwa na shida mingi sana. Sasa leo tumepeana matakwa zetu, tunangojea kesho response ya Deputy President.
As we attract foreign investors, we don't want them to use Kenya as a dumping ground for cheap products. That's why I've said we are even imposing higher taxes on some of these products to discourage us from importing things that we can produce. And I think that's the basis upon which our CS is working upon. There's nothing illegal about selling products from outside, but we are saying it is that practice that has actually killed our industries.
The controversy seems to have taken a diplomatic turn, with Kenya's ambassador to China, Mary Modhoni, being recalled with eyebrows being raised over the timing of the move. The China Square is currently under investigation, with the latest twist being that officials from the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, ACA, are looking into a case involving goods worth 50 million shillings from the store alleged to be subject of intellectual property infringement and counterfeit products. Brian Mushiri, NTV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Brian. So again, the latest in that is that the Anti-Counterfeit Authority released a statement earlier today clarifying that the finder goods seized in China Square worth some 50 million shillings had been returned after the complainant withdrew that case. Prof, let me begin with you. This is being seen as a government going after this business and other Chinese import-based business. Is the government right to go after China Square, for instance?
Yeah, first of all, Ben, there are a few things here that needs to be clarified. And first and foremost, I think the minister did not understand the context of trading within Nyamakima in relationship to China Square.
Okay.
And what he misunderstood, he didn't know that China Square had become a wholesale for these other traders that he was trying to defend. And why I'm saying so is that if goods are half the price of what is being sold at Nyamakimwa, then why should someone go to import anything from China? Remember, these traders used to go to import things, used to go to Thailand, Turkey, China to import those very goods to come and resell them to Kenyans in retail. If they are half the price at China Square, does it make sense to go and have all those challenges of booking a ticket all the way to China? And the second thing is that you see the economy is doing bad, and the dollar is now almost smelling 140. $1 for 140 Kenya shillings. And that means that Kenyans who have been importing these things from abroad, they have to buy in dollars and they have to sell in Kenya shillings, convert again and purchase in dollars. That means that with the dollar going up and the Chinese don't have to buy in dollars, they just bring them to Kenya, they get them from Guangzhou, they bring them here, so they don't suffer that FX cost, meaning that they are able to bring them at a cheaper cost. Even when the CS is talking about the issue of imposing more taxes, the cost of production in China is very low, adding to the fact that you don't have to suffer this FX cost that is happening here for these guys who are doing it from Kenya. So those people are actually not happy with the CS going after the China Square because that has been their wholesale. But there's only one person who should cry. There are some Kenyans who usually go abroad, they buy those things and try to become the wholesalers for these people in Nyamakimwa. Those ones are affected. The second thing is
that... are those the ones protesting in the streets?
Yeah, those are the ones protesting. But the ones actually who use China Square as source of... Actually, those people have sent other people protest on their behalf. And then the ones who have been using the ones who have been using these ones as a source of wholesale, they have no problem. Then the second thing I have to bring also, which is clear, as far as I'm concerned, the CS Moses Kuria is being a marketing strategist for China Square, because since he did it, Kenyans didn't know China Square, and now everyone knows about China Square. As soon as things go back to normal, there is no need. So Kabogo said that what he bought in China Square is half the price what he buys everywhere. And Kenyans are saying, so we have been fooled, we have never been told things are that cheap at China Square. So he's done fantastic marketing for China
Interesting
Square.
Point. Let me pick the brain of one Dismas Mokwa. Dismas, what did you make of that closure by China Square and the trade CS saying it's protecting Kenyan businesses and so on and so forth?
Well, for me, I saw that globalization is actually being felt in Kenya, because you can look at it from two perspectives. The first one is from a political perspective, and another one is from an international trade perspective. Because with the globalization of marketing and production, all manufacturers are looking for low production costs. And the low production costs tend to be in Asia, in Pakistani, Vietnam, and China. That is where there is a low production. And because we are in a global village, these multinationals or these manufacturers have got capacity to flood the entire world with their products. So anybody who manufactures in China and brings their products in Kenya, I see absolutely nothing wrong. Because who wins? The person who wins is the Kenyan consumer. And I've not seen Kenyan consumers going in the streets doing demos saying that they're able to get high quality goods at affordable costs. Instead, the person who is going to the street is the trader. But globalization benefits, the end beneficiary is the consumer. That is number one. Then the second level, there is the political statement that because I'm a popular politician in Kenya, I must put in a word to defend my people. But at the end of the day, we must look at the behavior of some of these policies. Who does it benefit? Who does it harm? Not long ago, I mean, from the time President Ruto took office, he's been engaged in economic and trade diplomacy. He went to Ethiopia to assist a Kenyan organization called Safaricom to launch their products. Now, can you imagine the way part of the Kenya Kwanza administration is saying that we need to relook at the China Square? Can you imagine if the same happens in Ethiopia? If the ICT minister there says we want to look at this. And then the last point, again, a few days ago, you saw the president launching Taifa Gas, which on average is going to be, I think, 17% cheaper than what we have here. And with taxes being reduced or abolished, gas is going to become very cheap. Now, as a nation, when we start saying that we are not going to welcome these FDI, What are we telling people in Ethiopia, and what are we telling the Tanzanians who are investing in Kenya?
Good question. Nordin, weighing on this, we've seen Kenyan traders in the streets protesting. Are they justified from where you sit?
You see, first and foremost, the casual manner of how this thing has been handled is the problem. And you see, for someone like the CS, it's more or less like a joke. If you see his handle today, what he has shared, I think a few minutes ago.
Kenya Square.
You see, for him, it's more or less like banter. He doesn't realize the severity of whatever is happening. Because when you look at these traders, someone has lied to them in that, I'm trying to protect you, I'm trying to help you. So you do whatever you're doing, but we're trying to, it's like they made promises. And now they can't achieve those promises. So they're trying to show them the reason why we can't do this is because of ABCD, and point a finger somewhere. Right. But now today, the anti-counterfeit authority has come up with a statement. Now you look at this statement and you laugh, because when you look at the Anti-Counterfeit Act, it talks about Section 32, talks about counterfeit goods. 33 talks about laying a complaint. Now the complaint you lay there, for example, we need to see that so-called letter or the complainant, whatever they complain about, because the goods they talk about intellectual property and what have you. Now today we're being told that that same complainant has now withdrawn the case, and so the goods will have been returned. Now this now ropes in Section 34, subsection 7, because now this person that is China Square can now sue and get compensation. Because if, for example, that complaint was negligent, or if that so-called complaint was majorly a rumor mill or something, and you have actually infringed on their rights and actually to conduct business, now they can actually go and seek compensation. Because now that is where we are, because that's why I'm saying they take it as a joke. But if China Square today decide, you know what, we're going to court, they will get compensation.
So it's getting murky. For
the disruption of business that they have encountered.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's pay some bills. Let's take a quick commercial break and come back and get into the meat of this proper. Talk about much talked about ownership of China Square, where some people are casting aspersions on who really owns this company, and also we have seen some diplomatic charter coming about this. Stay with us. This is Front and Center.
I am a chef, and I have joined the movement.
Mimi ni Mama Mboga, and I've joined the movement.
You too can join the Optivan movement today. Our properties come with a range of amenities including access to water, electricity, well-maintained roads. For every 300,000 Kenya shillings that you place as deposit or installment towards any of Optivan's property, we give you 4,000 Kenya shillings cash back. Call us on 0790 300 300.
Cabling tips. Use cables from a reputable manufacturer made from 99.99% pure copper and the best insulation. Use a certified installer. Scratch to verify and authenticate your cables. And now we bring you the Fundi Bora loyalty program. Scratch, verify and earn Fundi Bora points. Redeem accumulated points for exciting gifts including airtime, cables voucher, motorbikes. East African Cables. Total peace of mind.
With Glovo, you have the city in your hands. Unatamani chakula different? Order Glovo ujaribu restaurant mpya. Diapers zimeisha? Order Glovo and save the day. Download the app and order anything you want.
The European countries dump 37 million items za mtumba in Kenya every year. 37 million mitumba clothes. And they have become a problem because had the band have changed their wardrobe. Before COVID, nguo za mitumba zikiingia 37 million, had the band walikuwa wanavaa 35 million. Sasa hivi wameomoka wakaacha kuzivaa, hizo nguo zote haziwezi valiwa na wase wa spoken word na BN. Now
unite us. I will never forget.
Literally ulikuwa unauza kuku.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story because this just shows mtu yote anatoka LD na anauza kuku. Mmoja sasa ni president. There's something special.
Wewe unanifame.
Grand Midtown Apartments, a development by Soil Merchants, is built to deliver all the conveniences of a big city's lifestyle. Welcome to our open day on 4th March 2023. For more information, call us on 0790 771677 or SMS HOME to 21595.
Ooh, here comes the singleton. It's gonna be delicious, and you know it. A silky, smooth single malt on the way to your glass. Just look at that. Oh my. The singleton, this will be good.
Sasa tumeni pesa. Asante. Bado mtu mmoja sasa.
Nimekosa 6 bob ya transaction. 6 bob ni pesa kunyima mtu kweli? Uda. Vuka tu Airtel Money. Aje janjes.
Dial *334#. Set your 4-digit PIN and confirm. Set your security question. Airtel Money is now activated. Sasa uko set. You tume Airtel to Airtel for free.
Grand Midtown Apartments, a development by Soil Merchants, is built to deliver all the conveniences of a big city's lifestyle. Located along Muranga Road near KICD, a 3-minute drive to the CBD, with unlimited water supply, high-speed lifts, ample parking, 24-hour security with CCTV surveillance, and a health club. Get an investment apartment from as low as 1.98 million. Welcome to our open day on 4th March 2023. For more information, call us on 0790 771677 or SMS HOME to 21595.
The European countries dump 37 million items za mtumba in Kenya every year. 37 million mitumba clothes. And they have become a problem because had the band have changed their wardrobe. Before COVID, nguo za mitumba zikiingia 37 million, had the band walikuwa wanavaa 35 million. Sasa hivi wameomoka wakaacha kuzivaa, hizo nguo zote hazizivaliwa na wase wa spoken word na BN. Now
unite us. I will never forget.
Literally ulikuwa unauza kuku.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story because this just shows mtu yote anatoka LD na anauza kuku.
Apana,
Mmoja sasa ni president. There's something special.
Wewe unanifame.
Welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching Front and Center here on NTV. We are talking about the China Square fiasco, the import business controversial story that is developing quite fast. I'm in studio with lawyer Nordin Kagai, political strategist, Professor Fred Ogola, political researcher Dismas Mokua. Much has been spoken about the ownership of this company. Prof, we can come back to you. You said something about trade CS Moses Kuria doing this as a marketing gimmick.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
It's true because, you know, the world over, so marketing strategies need some very controversial things that has to be done. Do you know how Coke became a popular drink in the world? They had some very serious things they did. I'm not here to speak on that because it's a very contentious issue. But let me talk about the one I'm talking about now. Do you know how many percentage of Kenyans didn't know about China Square until now? On this set, to me, I didn't know. Dismas probably didn't know. Wakili probably didn't know about China Square.
I did.
And you did. Yeah. Maybe there are some very peculiar reasons why you knew. Yeah. But let me put this clear. Even if you look at the fact now coming to who owns China Square, it is very hard for anyone to set up China Square without a Kenyan being part of it. Yeah. Coca-Cola, we know that there are some people who are part of Coca-Cola who had to own Coca-Cola so that they work. Any businesses that has to run in Kenya with a foreigner has to have social license to operate, and this normally comes from funding with some people. Ben, do you know why this drink called Red Bull became very popular all of a sudden? Do you know what the marketing strategy which was done? Somebody just went and collected empty cans of Red Bull overnight when people are asleep, and they just put them everywhere next to people's neighborhoods. Then people woke up and found Red Bull cans everywhere. Then you say that this drink people are drinking, a lot of people are drinking, it must be a very good drink. Then this went to the supermarket, start now looking for this thing, and became very popular.
So you're saying there's a similar gimmick?
There's a similar
This would be
gimmick.
insinuating that Moses Kuria has something to do with China Square as a beneficiary. That's a big
I
statement
can
to make.
confirm that there must be some direct benefit he's getting from China Square. And in fact, he's made it very popular. If you look at the tweets he did, some of them he deleted. Why was he putting some tweets, some of them being deleted? And also the tweets we are looking about here have also been promoted, because if you go to a Twitter, you show that this tweet has been promoted. So I can tell you for a fact that there's a direct benefit to Moses Kuria. Remember, this person has done a lot of trips to China. He was the Minister of Trade. These are some of the, let's say, those policies that somebody's put in place to work. So I can tell you, Kenyans let us see more than just this fight between these two people. Then I also wanted to bring some perspective here. Is the issue of China-Kenya trade needs also be looked at here, because we cannot just take it for granted. Now, the US and Kenya is negotiating a trade negotiation. Do we have anything like that to ensure that we have a policy? Because we need to depersonalize this issue so that we work with institutions and functions. And then, of course, the other thing is that we can sometimes call domestic scores with this matter, but we lose on the geopolitical aspect, because anybody watching, like you said, a Japanese watching, anybody from India watching, they are saying, is this how Kenyans are treating their people?
All right. Bwana Wakili, let me pick your brain on your take on the ownership of this company. What Kenyans are talking about, the 1% owned by this guy Cheng Li, and the other 99% owned by some company. Do you think there's any Kenyan foul play going on somewhere?
You see, most of the time, companies that are owned, like the way that one looks, where he has one and there's somebody else or some other big company that owns the rest of the shares, most of the time people tend to see as a proxy. That's why there's talks of someone, this is someone's, has an influence there, there's interest, and there's certain business going on. At the end of the day, to actually find out those who hold, that company that holds the shares of the 99 shares, it's easy. You just have to check the directors. But if it is something that is hidden, you won't get. So at the end of the day, there is something that is amiss, which is a smoke screen, and some traders who are demonstrating, either sponsored or not, are pawns in this game, because this is what you're being told, but there's something behind there that we really don't know and don't understand, because out of nowhere, a company came, it was registered, they've imported goods, duty has been paid on them, then all of a sudden, they're the reason why traders in Nyamakima Gikomba don't have a source of livelihood. So it doesn't make sense. And if the issue is what they're trying to portray as pricing was, then those traders in Gikomba and Nyamakima then should look at their prices. Because there's no way as a Kenyan someone should exploit you just because you have to promote a Kenyan. It doesn't make sense. Because when you look at your consumer rights, you have a right to decide whether you want to go with a matatu, a boda boda, or an ubaka. It is your choice. It is your money at the end of the day. So I do believe there is something that is amiss, but the good reality is that in Kenya, nothing stays hidden forever. It will come out, whatever is amiss, and we're waiting to see it, because at the end of the day, this is just the beginning. As he rightfully says, we have to look at our way of handling issues beyond our borders, because we don't want to go and end up looking like South Africa when it comes to things like xenophobia or Operation Dudula. You see, so we have to be very careful because we can't say we are open for business. That is the term the CS used. Kenya is open for business. So you can't be open for business, but it gets to a certain point you decide, let's close this side of the business and let this open. So in as much as our traders, yes, we're in a situation where we have hard economic times, make the business environment suitable for them so that they can also thrive. But you cannot decide to stifle some other part of the business so that your traders move ahead. It doesn't make sense if you ask me.
All right. Dismas, what is your take on this? Is remote controlling the prices and closing down businesses the solution?
No. Far from it. You know, when Kenya Kwanza took office, they said they want the economy to grow and for business to thrive. So it doesn't matter whether you're a Chinese company, Turkish or South African, that we want the economy to grow. And the economy will grow by doing 4 things. Number 1, promoting Kenya as an FDI destination. Right. So we get many more of these Chinese squares coming to Kenya. Number 2, we promote our exports. Number 3, we promote our services. Now, because Kenya is a global player, we must ask ourselves, how can we make Kenya a low-cost production country? So that if we manufacture goods in Kenya, they become cheaper than what is being sold at China Square. And in my view, it means that we must address the cost of production in Kenya. And the first thing we need to do is to address the cost of energy. Because the cost of energy in Kenya is very high compared to our neighbors. And also the cost of human resource, the cost of land. In general, the cost of all the factors of production. You recall at some stage we had indicated that aviation is a big global industry. And the country in Africa which takes the lion's share is Morocco. Morocco have got 52 subcontractors of the big global players. So, and then they do their services cheaply. But in Kenya, here in Kenya, if you want a chopper or you've got a plane, you will take it to Uganda for servicing. Why? Because the cost of servicing these facilities in Kenya is very expensive, so you have to go to Uganda. In fact, majority of the multinationals, when they want to set up businesses in Africa, if they're looking at energy as a key determinant, they'll probably go to Zimbabwe, or they'll go to Egypt because of the low cost of energy. So those are some of the things that we are supposed to address. And then we must also eliminate the possibility that a number of public servants of rank would actually use their selfish interest to come up with public policies. But again, I saw that covered in the dispatch yesterday, the cabinet dispatch, that is something which is going to be addressed. But finally, the consumer is king. Competition at Nyamakima, at China Square, whoever brings competition, the consumer is king. Because one of the things we need to address as a nation is the cost of living. If the Chinese man at China Square is addressing the cost of living, giving us goods at affordable rates, how come we are making noise about that? And also the issue of the counterfeits. People went and decided to cut away goods valued at 50 million. Now they've got an egg on their face because they've established that there is no mischief. So it may be useful for the law enforcement agencies actually to go and look at the hippo's nose and find out what are we not being told? What is the 411? Because the person you expected to be in the streets to demonstrate is the consumer. And I've not seen any, he's a professor of economics, he'll tell you that a human being is the most rational animal, and they act in their selfish interest. Why should a Kenyan be penalized for wanting to buy affordable goods at high quality by these middlemen? Now, those people at Nyamakima, if they're feeling disadvantaged by globalization, let them go to China Square and find out the business model so that they can source these goods at the same prices or even competitive. Or maybe they can get some sharp guys to advise them on supply chain management. But at the end of the day, we cannot allow any politician or public servant of rank to drive their selfish agenda so that they protect some middlemen. And there was a conversation earlier on that I understand more than 70% of the fish consumed in Kenya is from China. How come we have not had people making noise around that? And then we buy eggs and chicken from Uganda. How come nobody is complaining about that? And then recently we are getting maize from outside Kenya. How come nobody is complaining about that? How come there's a fire in the city when it's folks from Nyamakima who are being affected?
Good questions. Prof, people who go to China Square and the others who go to Nyamakima say that this mug can cost 100 shillings at China or 50 shillings at China Square, and in Gikomba or Nyamakima it costs 300 shillings. So where if Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, and the trade CS say they are protecting these retailers, who is protecting consumers?
Yeah, first of all, it is not right to say that, because what do Kenyans trade? I said 80% of Kenyans or anything sold in Kenya, Kenyans are brokers, Kenyans are importers, and Kenyans are traders. By that very fact, what do you trade on? Because you don't manufacture, you trade on information. And you trade on information asymmetry. My brother here doesn't know how much that mug is. Actually, for him, he can buy for 600. In fact, Kenyans look at you and they say, this guy can buy this one for 1,000. This one can buy for 200. Forget about even that it is a standard price at Nyamakima. When you go there in your suit, Ben, you'll pay 1,200 for this mug. But somebody else will go with 300. So Kenyans use what is called information asymmetry. They know you don't know China Square. So actually, I even advised one person who was doing business here in Accra Road. He opened a wholesale business for selling phones. and he was my student in Strathmore. So I saw him being very busy. He leaves class, he's on phone. Then I call and tell him, my brother, what's happening? He told me he runs a wholesale business of a phone here. I told him that really, we went there and analyzed and discovered there are people in Accra Road, this is a fact. They have some symbols of phones in a shop. So you can say, I want Nokia, this one. Then they tell you, oh, how much are you willing to pay? You say 9,000. Then they go to the wholesaler and tell them, do you have Nokia, this number? Yes. How much are you willing to sell to me? Then they say 6,000. I come tell you, can you buy at 8,000? So he does not have that phone. He knows where that phone is and how much he can get it, and knows how much you're willing to pay. So with that thing, Kenyans are trading on information because there's no value addition. True. So for that matter, what I can say is that there's nothing like consumer protection so long as you are buying, willing buyer, willing seller. So that is what remains the fact. Now, if you have information, you know where to buy your stuff. If you don't have information, where to be given. That's why hawkers walk around on the streets. They hawk for you because they don't know where Nyamakimwa is. You remember some people also buy from Nyamakimwa and still sell and still make profit. That's how amazing it is. So I think let's allow that thing just to happen openly. And to touch on the issue of industrialization, I wrote an article last week and I said that we are trying to use a continuum that never happens because Kenyans are being told, let us begin from agrarian, which is agricultural, right. Let's go to industrialization, and then let's move, because after industrialization there's a step in development called de-industrialization, where we are relying more on service sector more than manufacturing. And Ben, at the moment, Kenya are doing 54.4% on service sector contribution to GDP. Manufacturing is around 16%. Do you think we shall wait until we go to manufacturing while the world have moved to service industry? iPhone, we have M-Pesa. Why don't we make Kenya become the epicenter of services? Then now trade on what we cannot be able to produce efficiently. Let the China squares come here, let other people come here to bring for us goods we are not good. Even economics says, if you are not efficient, trade. Because there is no need of putting too much dollars on manufacturing when we have become a global village whereby somebody can manufacture in China and bring to you. Right. Before the world became a global village, it made sense to manufacture your own things. But now Kenya can become an epicenter for service sector. Let us become the center for financial services so that in whole of Africa we can be the center for that. Why don't you be the center for mobile telephony, for new innovation?
What will that do to manufacturing in the country? Or is it not that
because
important?
Manufacturing may require robotics. We may need to invest on how can we be able to package things, be able to do with robots. So we have engineers in universities, they can do that. This is not a big thing. Why are we fighting with the Chinese? Why don't we package for them their ice cream here? When they come, we look for how to store them. We need to go into more service sector because the world is not going to move there. Right. If it took America over 60 years to become fully industrialized, for us we are still under either hunters and gatherers or under agrarian. Because you're laughing, Dismas. Do you know that when this drought hit Kenya, some people on the television showing us that they are now looking for fruits and roots to eat to survive. That's hunting and gathering. So some people are still under hunting and gathering. Right. Others are still under agriculture because of fertilizer from the president. When will we wait until we become industrialized? By that time, the world will have gone to another 6th stage. So we cannot wait for that moment.
Nordin, I'll ask you the same question I asked Prof. If the government says it is protecting retailers in Nyamakima, Du Bois, these places, Gikomba, who is protecting consumers?
Well, they expect it to be protected by the Consumer Protection Act, which clearly isn't protecting you because someone wants to score cheap political points by either trying to endear themselves to a certain populace, showing that, you know what, I'm your defender, I'm protecting you, and the enemy is that person, as I told you earlier. You see, the sad reality is that there's a lot of dishonesty in this scenario because, like we rightfully said, if the issue is sale and purchase of whatever is being sold, if I'm comfortable in whatever they are selling to me, one, and if they meet the standards as per KEBS and et al., And that amount you're selling is what I have. Why should I go get exploited? You see, that is the question. That's why we're saying this is more or less like a smoke screen. There's something that is happening behind it that we need to find out. That's why I said in the fullness of time, it will come out. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing about the trader or the consumer. There's someone who's trying to show that, you know what, I'm here, trying to get some political points. And that is why you realize it is only traders from Nyamakima. That's why we talked about, he asked about fish from China. Nobody's talking about that because there's no one who has intentions of trying to endear themselves to that particular area. So you look at this, it's more or less political than the aspect of the economy, if you look at it. So at the end of the day, if this isn't handled well, it will bring about issues. You see, China has sent a communication out because now they are wondering what is happening. Because if you mess, you know, you can't mess with there are countries out there, the foreign policy is very strict. You can't mess with their citizens. Yeah. Ours is quite unique because we export labor and things happen, then nobody cares. So and we have a CS who will blame you for going out to look for a job. So at the end of the day, we need to look at how we package our issues. Because right now, if, for example, the issue is more or less about the sale, the consumer, the good, because now we know the goods are not the problem. And to counterfeit, I'll say the goods are they okay. So now the next battlefront is the traders are saying that they have been taken out of business. You're not being taken out of business. It's a concept. You look at your SWOTs in business. If, for example, your whatever you're selling is too expensive, then change. Or if you're trying to measure to how China Square is being run or whatever they are doing, like you rightfully said, pay a visit there, act like you're buying something, learn a thing or two and come and implement in your business. But if you don't, you will be pawns where someone will be inciting you. You'll have meetings at night, someone will send you to go and make cheap political statements that won't help you in any way. Because the consumer at the end of the day cannot be panel beaten to come to your shop. He or she has the right and liberty to go to wherever they feel like taking their money to. Right. Yeah.
All right, let's listen into the traders did meet Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua yesterday at the DP's office. Let's listen to what was said there.
We support over 5 million families in the businesses that we do. How do we support them? We sell to wholesalers, wholesalers sell to retailers, retailers sell to hawkers, and hawkers sell to consumers. If the government supports us, we will support the government, grow the economy of this country. We will create more jobs. We will improve the livelihoods of Kenyans. Na mtusaidie Wakenya waache kuona kama kwamba we are reaping in billions in terms of profits, while in real sense we are reaping in shilingi moja, shilingi mbili.
We are going to change KRA, and it will be a very welcoming body. We are going to make it the best, and it is good that you are really supporting us. And the government is fully behind us. And I'm telling you, there is no single time mutateseka tena.
We must retreat, we must consult, we must look at all these cross-cutting issues as a government and agree. And then we'll agree between 2 to 3 weeks. Again, we come back so that we tell you this is possible, this is the way we go about it, this is the way. So I'll ask PM tupatie nafasi. We want to build our relationships with all friendly countries. We want to grow trade. We want to increase the volume of trade. We want to send exports there, as is they say their exports here, and we will look for a solution without antagonizing any country, without antagonizing anybody.
Dismas, what are your thoughts on the DP's promises there and the KRA chairman as well? And what would you tell those traders?
Well, I think the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, has captured the mood of globalization. That we play in the global village. You cannot be a protectionist economy, or you can't behave like North Korea. We play at the global level. So we must attract FDI, and every country in the, most countries want to attract FDI. We must sell our exports and services, and also get our people in the diaspora to work hard and remit forex. But at the end of the day, because of globalization and competition, the traders have to smell the coffee. I recall not long ago, the only mode available of communication, especially for people in the emergency sector, was a pager. But with the introduction of mobile telephony, the people who used to have pagers then, I remember a company called Paging Services Limited, they tried to innovate and renovate, but then they successfully failed. In a short space of time, they embraced the mobile telephony. You can even look at the cabs in Kenya. People relied on the traditional cabs, but now you have the new cabs, the Ubers, Bolt, and such. Now, for the people with the old cabs who refused to embrace the new changes, they found themselves in trouble. Now, those traders in Nyamakima who are complaining about the China Square, they need to spend time and study that model and offer China Square competition. Because the owner of China Square has confirmed it's possible to get high quality goods from China, and you land them in Kenya, and you sell them at a very low price, and you still make a profit. So in my view, there is room for them to speak to business consultants, or they can even form circles. If indeed the people who are in the streets and protesting are traders, they can actually form a circle. They can form a limited liability company and engage in supply chain management. If they go and ask that Chinese man, or they study the business model, it's very easy to establish where he buys the goods from in China, and they do the same here in Kenya. If they keep on complaining every single day, they can complain till the cows come home, but there is no rational human being who is going to buy this mug at Nyamakima for 300 bob, knowing that it's available at China Square for 30 bob. Right. Because, I mean, right now, people, we are struggling to save every shilling to buy unga. So why would you want to engage in unstructured purchases unless you've got illicit resources?
All right. Prof, very quickly because of time, what is the end game of this meeting?
I think this was a PR because I don't think they have gotten what they wanted. Because they were being told, wait and see, we are going to retreat, we shall come back. I'm sure that, I'm saying, if you are Deputy President, Ben, I'm sure that before you call these traders, you should have some insight, some intelligence to know what you'll tell them. You cannot tell people, you've come all the way, we'll get back to you. I'm sure that was not something they expected. I'm sure they are not happy unless this was a PR. It's also possible, I can tell you, Ben, that some people came here, acted as if they represent the traders from there. All these things are possible in Kenya. What I'm trying to say in Kenya, just be very open-minded. All right. Because when you become very open-minded, it's difficult for you to be deceived. But I like to disagree with this man a little bit. To compete the China Square model is hard because there are some fundamentals that you cannot beat. These people don't have to buy in dollars. They can just get these goods in their local currency and bring them here. And you don't know even how they have agreed with the manufacturer of these goods in China. A Kenyan cannot be allowed to buy goods. And then there's something to explain about international trade here. I've sat in WTO meetings on how the Africans are treated. Do you know that if an American wants to import something from Europe, they can be given that thing for 30 days to pay after the import? Europeans can actually be given another few days to do so. Asia can import something to pay on delivery. But for you, if you want to import something from China, even before shipment, even before they are moved from where they are standing, you're paid fully. So if you look at the number of days you pay, the cash flow, if you like, you have paid something which will come to you in 2 months from China, if they're coming by sea. Then the process of clearing it from here, you have already paid, and your money is being held before you sell. So that process becomes so difficult. I'm a consultant in business. What we have to accept is this. These people need to go to areas where they are more competitive. Like I talk about the service provision. Some areas in this whole model, by having so many China Square here, there are many services that actually you can be able to offer around those things. At the same time, there are some things which cannot ever come from China. There are some things that Chinese can never ever produce. All right. So let's go to those areas and explore them rather than trying to flog a dead horse. Because sometimes when the horse is dead, you can hire a consultant to tell you how the horse is dead. You can hire a new rider to help you how to ride a new horse, a dead horse. The fact is that this horse is dead. And also, if you look at it this way, by the score that has been given by Chagwa in this meeting is that I've listened to them. You know, in Kenya, some people can be saying, oh, he was a nice guy, at least he appeared, he listened to us. But these are just emotional things.
All right.
Has the matter been addressed? And saying we are retreating as a government, and I hear that statements coming from the chair of KRA, let us be honest here. Imposing more taxes is not the way to go. And Ben, this is something I want Kenyan Kwanza to be very careful about. If we have what's called unstable tax policies, no investor wants to come. In fact, that foreign direct investment cannot come in an environment whereby someone can wake up and impose any other tax just depending on who comes to the offices.
All right.
Let us have a good tax policy so that investors can predict and anticipate how they can make money, then they can be able to invest in our country.
Nordin, as we wind up, what is the likely end game of, or is the government right to try and protect traders like we are seeing in that meeting with the DP and a few other top government officials?
So far, they are not protecting anyone. You see, these traders are being led to a dead end. And to play devil's advocate, they are naive to think that their problems are China Square and the government is trying to solve the issues. Because if the government really wanted to solve the issues, it's quite simple. You see, for example, if the goods they are getting from China, maybe the ease of clearing them is hard, maybe there are certain issues. That is a government-to-government relation and an agreement they can have so that they can be able to help business grow both in China and for the Kenyans here. Because at the end of the day, when you make ease of doing business, as they rightfully said, we are open for business, then these traders will actually feel that ease and they will be able to sell whatever they're importing. The other thing is, like rightfully said, taxation. You see, if taxation on imports is high, then you're not helping that trader at the end of the day. You're lying to them, you're putting them there drinking good coffee or taking water, and that is more or less like lip service. So if you do that, you're able to help them. And then the other thing is more or less, you look at the international trade. If you can be able to focus and find a way how Kenyans can benefit from it, pursue, be it agreements or what have you, then you will help the traders. Otherwise, you'll be calling them there, they waste their time, they come, tomorrow they picket or someone sponsors them to picket, and they'll be doing that as China Square or any other company does their own business.
All right. All right, Dismas, the time is not on our side. I'll give you 1 minute for your final thoughts on this issue of import business, the Kenyan traders versus the China Squares of this world. What is the way forward?
Well, for me, I think as a nation, Kenya, we must be prepared to take advantage of this globalization of production and marketing. Find out what we need to do to reduce the cost of production in Kenya. If it's energy, if it's labor, if land, whatever it is, we reduce it so that we can become more competitive. And on the issue of studying the Chinese model and even beating the China man at his own game, it's very possible. It only requires a policy intervention. And my understanding of the meeting with the DP, he was trying really to put on their shoes and understand where they're paining so that they can come up with policy interventions. It's very possible for the Kenya Kwanza administration to come up with policy interventions to support those traders, not necessarily engage in the demonstrations, but give them capacity to compete at an international level. But on the other hand, we cannot shut ourselves from globalization because it's happening everywhere. And it's now that concept of Charles Darwin, the fittest will survive. The government will give you support only to a certain extent, but you must go the extra mile and ask yourself, who moved the cheese and smelled the coffee? If you don't do that, then it's going to be a chapter in history. Because, for instance, the people who had those old cabs, they refused to embrace the digital, those applications, they're bleeding. The people who had pagers, they're bleeding. So they must be alive, they must be alert, and they must be agile to new thinking.
Prof, I'll give you 1 minute only. What are your final thoughts? What is your advice to the Kenya Kwanza government and to the traders, Chinese or Kenyan?
For me, my advice comes from the first concern. From the very first moment Kenya Kwanza took office, at the very venue where they were sworn in, they had some gaps and goofs, like saying the economy is dilapidated, saying they have no money in the coffers, saying they have no dollars. This is the reason why we are, and I can actually tell you the economic situation we are facing in the country has been caused by Kenya Kwanza, especially in reckless talks. You can win some scores like saying the former president is the one who has made the economy bad, but actually you are killing the very economy which you are supposed to be protecting. That's why Kibaki shut his mouth and focused on work. So one thing is that Kenya Kwanza need to stop all these smoke screens they're giving us and just deliver into their manifesto. The second thing I can say, you can see all those gaps we are talking about, the issue of the China trade. Now we are treating, meaning you didn't know, we are returning the goods. You have already taken somebody's good without the proper procedure. I think this government needs to be taught on what is called government communications etiquettes. They need to be taught a few issues on diplomacy. I don't want to mention single names, but you have seen so many of them because of time. These people need to be taught how to run government. And I'm sure this is what will make things, you know, in communication strategy, you must be very clear on where we are going. For example, today we wake up, it's about China Square. Then tomorrow wake up, it's about, I don't know, Uhuru has done that. Then tomorrow wake up and say, now today is Women's Day. Right. Wake up today is a prayer. Are Kenyans clear of the path this Kenyan Kwanza government is taking towards prosperity?
Good question.
So I think that is the main question we need to address here, and Kenya Kwanza needs to be taught on these communications etiquettes. As a consultant and an expert in this area, I can offer free services if they want to.
Ben, it's unfair to accuse Kenya Kwanza of the state of economics today, while in fact President Ruto and Kenya Kwanza are cleaning tables. You know, economic mismanagement, fiscal indiscipline.
You can't defend that.
And economics.
Your
so
final
it's
thoughts?
unfair. They need to be given at least 1 year.
Your final thoughts, I believe there's so many distractions from people talking about the real issues that people are facing at the end of the day. But to just pick something from Moses Kuria, what he said that these people are meant to be manufacturers and not traders. They're talking about how they want to turn the country into a manufacturing country. Now, if, you know, because ideas don't necessarily belong to someone unless you patent them or trademark them. The thing is, if they are serious about this issue about manufacturing, they need to lower the cost of production. Once they do that, they can even borrow a leaf from the Azimio manifesto. 47 counties, right? Each county one product. In that you bring about employment, you bring about products. At the end of the day, you move. And that is easy.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in tonight to shed light on this developing story about import trade business, China Square versus Nyamakima and all that. Thanks for your words. I had with me Lodin Kagai, lawyer, political strategist, Professor Fred Ogola, and political risk analyst Dismas Mokwa. Many thanks, gentlemen. As we leave it on the show tonight on Front and Center, we shall keep an eye on this developing story for you as it continues to develop. Be sure to join us every Thursday night from around 9:30 p.m. as we dissect and get into some of the biggest political and policy issues in the Republic here on Front and Center. For all of us, we thank you for your company tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from Nairobi.